excellence is who you are when nobody's watching. And when you're an overnight houseman, no one sees you, right?
Today on The Color Between the Lines, we're talking about purpose, persistence, and the power of showing up. My guest, Jimmy Jean. He went from cleaning hotels to becoming a motivational voice and author. His new book, The Purpose-Driven Influencer, reminds us that success isn't just about shortcuts. It's about building character, intention, and impact. Let's dive into our conversation. One thing that came to mind as far as a question was that you write that a millionaire's advice to you included something that you say mops and buckets, and
Oh yeah,
how you showed up at work and
yeah,
it led to promotions.
yeah.
What exactly did that phrase mean to you then? And maybe explain to others who maybe don't know your story where you were then and how that changed you, that advice changed you.
That is one of my favorite stories. Is one of my favorite success principles. I remember I used to work for the YMCA and I was a fitness attendant. And at the time, I would meet people and I would walk around the gym and ask them if they need help and if they want to sign up for personal training. And then I remember some of my coworkers like, oh, that guy, he's a millionaire. As a kid, you're like, oh, millionaire. It's like, I want to try to find out, like, how do you become rich? How do you become successful? And so I was like, let me walk up to him and pick his brain. And he's about in his 60s and he had this rugged voice. And I started asking questions like, so how do you become a millionaire? How do you become successful? And he looked at me and he said, mops and buckets, kid, mops and buckets. And I'm like, mops and buckets? Like, I'm waiting for the most sage advice that he can possibly give me. So I asked him again, how do you become rich? How do you become a millionaire? He goes, mops and buckets, kid, mops and buckets. And until later, it really clicked. And what he meant by that is that there is no way you can fast track your success. I know we live in a world where it's like technology gives us the illusion of speed, and that the moment that you sign up for social media or decide that you want to become an influencer, it means that you're going to blow up. It means that you're going to be tomorrow, you're going to be at Madison Square Garden inspiring, 20,000 people, but it doesn't work that way. And so I remember when I first got my first hospitality job, I was hired as an overnight houseman. And the responsibility of an overnight houseman is you mop the floors, you make sure the exterior of the hotel is clean, and I would clean the bathrooms. And I said to myself, I'm going to clean the toilet bowls. I'm going to make sure that I'm the best toilet bowl cleaners they ever seen in this place because I approached my job with excellence. And I remember just as I was mopping the floors, I could just hear that millionaire's voice in my head, mops and buckets, kid, mops and buckets. And what that taught me was that excellence is who you are when nobody's watching. And when you're an overnight houseman, no one sees you, right? It's easy to cut corners, easy to say, you know what, I'm not going to mop this side of the lobby because I did that yesterday. And so, but the mops and buckets is a success principle. That means that there is no, there's a saying that you don't take the elevator to success, you take the stairs. And I think mop and buckets, it signifies that you got to work hard. You got to work hard. You got to pay your dues and you have to serve your way to success. And so that's what mops and buckets mean.
I know that with your book, I also noticed that with influencers, because you started with a job where you were dealing in the hotel industry, and
Mhm.
somehow it morphed into using social media.
Yeah.
And how did that happen? And what did that teach you in terms of success?
I always had the gift of motivation. Even when I was doing all sorts of types of job, there was always this inner calling for me that knew that I was created for more. And I never had a desire to be on social media until my wife said, hey, this gift of motivation that you have, the quotes that you create, like, how about you just share that with others? And I remember the moment that I opened up an Instagram account and I shared, I felt like the new kid on the new block. You ever go to when you're new to a school and you don't know anybody and you make that one friend? Well, that one friend was my wife. She liked everything that I posted, right? She clapped, she celebrated, and she thought everything was awesome. But then I realized, wait a second, this gift of motivation, there's a lot of people who share the same gift, and then the comparison and all that started. But I had to, and this is how the birth of the purpose driven influencer came about later down the line, because I wanted to create something that was going to ground me in my purpose. And I wanted something that was going to be an anchor for me, whether I got a lot of likes, whether the algorithm was good to me that day, or whether it was cruel. I wanted something that was going to ground me in meaning. And I know there are a lot of people who are just like me, who feel like they're just another echo, and their voice and their works don't matter. And they probably get one like on something they work just so very hard on. But I want them to know that, like, your purpose and your worth is not determined by the algorithm, whether people clap for you or not.
That's a very good point because that was one of my next questions and talking about how do you make that transition from being a digital creator and really striving for those likes to a purpose-driven creator or a purpose-driven influencer, like you put it in your book.
Mm. I think the number one thing for me is that before every post, I ask myself, what is my intention? That is the strategy. I call that a an intention check-in. All right. I want to make sure that the intention is pure for what I'm doing. And I create an acronym called PWP, Post with Purpose. And so every time that I get on, I'm like, what is the intention? Do I want people to uh do I want to highlight me, or do I want to make people feel like they have hope, they have courage, and that they can make their dreams a reality, they can make their dreams come true? And so for me, I think it's just really just asking yourself, what is your intention? Because I always believe it's an honor and a privilege to have people's attention. And so, how do you know if you're a purpose-driven influencer or not? I think you know that by, if your content inspires people to dream more, become more, do more, and be more grounded in purpose. I think that's how you know that you're a purpose-driven influencer.
I know that you spoke just briefly about, integrity and
Mm,
and you also write in the book about inner brand.
mm.
Mm. What I guess would be maybe one or two practices that you do that kind of builds that inner brand, and so that others who may be thinking about, how do I build that? How do I make that happen for myself? What would you say are maybe a couple practices that they could do?
Well, I think first I want to break down what the inner brand and outer brand means. Um, I think number one, I always believe that our primary purpose is our inner purpose. And Eckhart Tolle has a beautiful quote where he says that even if you achieve your outer purpose, it will never satisfy you until you achieve your inner purpose, which is to be awakened. And how I look at the outer brand is that it's the outer brand is the bio, it's the content strategy, it's making sure the photos are correct. It's all the things that create the influencer persona. But the inner brand is your soul, it's your spirit, it's your character, it's your integrity, it's who you are when you're offline. It's not just spreading the good vibes online, it's spreading the good vibes when you're offline. And so how I look at the inner brand, outer brand, I look at it as a home. And the outer brand is what creates the curb appeal. It's the flowers outside, but the inner brand is the foundation. And without the foundation, the house, and you're not going to have the intestinal fortitude to handle success and influence if you don't have a good foundation. And that's where we get ourselves in trouble. And so, how do you build that inner brand? I think for me, it's starting my day with stillness. It's making sure that before I check in with the world, I'm checking in with myself. It's my spiritual practices, whether you believe in God or not. I know for me that the source of my purpose comes from my source, my creator. And I don't think I could be the purpose-driven influencer without being connected to that source at the start of my day. And so it's prayer, it's meditation, it's taking time to be grateful. It's it's the simple prayer I often say is like, God, use me. Like, who can I be a vessel of impact to today? Whether it be one person, it could be five, it could be 10, but use me for a purpose that is greater than myself. And that's what I do.
You describe in your books procrastination, and I know there's a lot of people out there that can
Oof.
relate, and I relate in terms of doubtful before you post because you're
Hmm.
trying to check and double check and make sure that it's right and make sure that
Yeah,
you have the right intention.
yeah,
And how do you move from that, I guess, paralysis to actually making it so that you confirm that the work matters and
yeah,
still yet get it out there in a good way and in a not in a procrastinating way?
yeah. Well, procrastination is it's Stephen Pressfield he wrote a book called The War of Art, and he says that you have to declare procrastination is really resistance, and he says you have to declare war on resistance. And I remember even through the process of writing The Purpose Driven Influencer, one of his quotes that stood out to me in the book where he says that the more important a call is to your soul's evolution, the more resistance you're going to have at pursuing it. And I think procrastination, I used to beat myself up so much about procrastinating, but I realized that it's not a stop sign. It's actually really a signal that the work that I'm supposed to be putting out to the world, it matters. And so I think for me, I had to give myself permission to put the work out messy,
Hmm.
uh, even the book. And as a creator, you sometimes you can't create and critique yourself at the same time. And so you got to really just give yourself permission to just put it out there. Just put it out there, whether it's messy. That's what's that saying is done is better than good. And I just try to keep in mind that I might be getting in the way of someone else's breakthrough or blessing because I'm withholding something that I can put out there that can possibly change their lives. And so it's reframing procrastination, reframing the resistance, and saying, get out the way, put it out there, and go out and help somebody.
When writing this book, what did you learn for yourself that you may not have known when you first started?
That's a good question. Um, that I'm more than capable of what I think I am. I think for a very long time there's been doubt and fear and imposter syndrome, and I think what I learned is it's also to just have people who believe in you and believe in your greatness. Um, and I credit my wife for being one of the biggest. I call her my purpose partner. And I don't think this book would have existed without her. I think on even days when I felt like I didn't have it, and I was just like, "Ah, I'm not gonna write today," and she used to always say, just write 3 sentences, right? And if I would write 3 sentences, I would end up writing a paragraph. I would end up all of a sudden I'm in this flow state and I'm writing. I think what I learned is that I'm more than capable than I am. I think what I also learned is that it's also to have people who are assigned to you who will help you push you towards your destiny and help you fulfill your greatest potential. Um, and I think those are the two things. Those are the two things that I learned.
All right. And my last question, of course, is what do you hope that people will take away from your book when they pick it up and put it down?
I think that I want people to know that in spite of what the world tells you, in spite of what social media tells you, your work matters. Your work matters. You don't need to have a big platform to have a big purpose. All you need is to have a big heart. And that's what I want people to know.
Many thanks to Jimmy Jean for sharing his story and his wisdom. His book, The Purpose Driven Influencer, is available right now. And remember, you don't need a huge platform to live with purpose. All you need is a big heart. Be sure to subscribe to The Color Between the Lines on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Esther Dillard.